Story time of how I found out my boyfriend was cheating on me with my cousin. My boyfriend and I had been together for 2.5 years. His family loved me and my family loved him and they expected us to get married. Well, last year when COVID started, we were actually in different countries, so we didn't see each other for 3 months. During those 3 months, we FaceTimed 4 times a day, and we were always texting. He happened to be quarantining in our hometown, so both of our families were in the same place. I was quarantined in a different country. One day my cousin calls me and tells me that she met a really nice guy on a dating website. I was so happy for her because she had had bad luck with guys. Every single week, her and I would catch up on the phone and she would tell me how much she liked this guy, and how amazing their dates were, and how amazing he was in bed, how sweet and considerate he was. I couldn't be happier for her. Well, when I finally get back home, my boyfriend is super distant and cold. So naturally, I called my cousin and complained. She told me to give him space. She said I should just leave him alone. And so like an idiot, I did leave him alone. One day my cousin calls me and tells me to come over for dinner. When I got there, my boyfriend's car was parked in her garage. I thought it was just her nice way of trying to get us to talk. I walk in and catch them doing the dirty on the couch. Come back for part 2. So I walk in on my cousin and my boyfriend doing the dirty on her couch. They quickly get up from the couch and get dressed. Of course, by that time, I'm in hysterics. I'm crying and yelling. My boyfriend instantly got on his knees and begged me for forgiveness. I went up to my cousin and I punched her right in the face. She wasn't expecting that. And I said, well, this is the guy that you've been dating, isn't it? She said yes, and that she was just trying to find the best way to tell me. And so she just thought the best way to tell me was to get me to walk in on her and him doing the dirty. I punched her again. My boyfriend came to her rescue though. Instantly went into hero mode, which made me even angrier, so I punched him too. I stormed out of her house and went back to my house. Well, I told my parents everything. And my dad went over to my uncle's house, my cousin's dad, and he told him everything. She was about to turn 19, so he took away her phone and her car. And I get a phone call from my ex, come back for part 3. So my lying, cheating ex calls me and explains to me why he actually slept with my cousin. He said that he was so lonely and that he didn't know what to do, and that the closest thing to me he could find was my cousin. Right, as if that was any comfort to me. He said I should be grateful that I didn't cheat with someone else. I told him he had totally betrayed my trust and that I could never ever trust him again. And then he confessed that she was pregnant and that his parents wanted them to get married. He said he just wanted to give me a heads up. Then he said that we could still be together but just not tell anyone, so basically he wanted me to be his side piece. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. It was like I didn't know this man. Guess what I did? I recorded the entire conversation. So I went straight to my cousin and I let her listen to it. She was so shocked. She couldn't believe that he would offer to have me as a side chick. Well, I also let my uncle listen to it. He went to my ex's house and beat him up. Honestly, that made me sad, but he deserved it. They now have a baby and he's gained 50 pounds. Trust your instincts, girl, and always record your conversations. Also, how cute are my nails? Here's a story time about when my coworker pulled out a knife on me. It sounds so dramatic, but it's true. Back in 2010, I got hired as a waitress at a hookah lounge in Glendale, California. I was trained by the lead server. I'm gonna call her Leslie. Leslie was really cool at first, and we got along pretty well. She was also an aspiring model like me, but the difference was that I had already gotten some modeling work and I had representation, and so she would ask me about how to get an agent and I would give her as much information as I could. I was very happy to help her. Our main job was to upsell hookahs, and the bosses noticed that I was pretty good at it, so within a few weeks they were congratulating me and being very vocal about how happy they were that I was working there. I could tell that this made Leslie a little bit jealous, and she quickly became very cold towards me. Whenever I entered a room, she would start talking bad about me on purpose so that I could hear her talking bad about me, and because I wouldn't react the way she wanted to, she would get very upset. She began to poison the servers against me and even the cooks in the kitchen. I then got a raise and the bosses told me in front of her, and this made her even more upset. She clearly had some issues and I felt bad for her, but it didn't give her the right to treat me like that. This is where it gets scary. Come back for part 2. Part 2. My coworker, who I'm calling Leslie, was very envious of the fact that I was doing well at the job and that the bosses were happy with me. I had also gotten a raise and I was making as much money as she was, and she had been there for a very long time. She would talk bad about me as soon as I came into the room, and she would make sure I would hear her, and it got so bad that I would ask her a question and she would flat out ignore me, pretend like I just wasn't even there. I couldn't work like that any longer, so I went up to the bosses and I told them what was happening, and they were not surprised. They basically said, it's okay, don't worry about it, just ignore her, she'll get over it. And they told me that they were going to talk to her. They told me not to worry, and I went home. The following morning, I wake up early and I go to the hookah lounge because I had the opening shift. As soon as I pull up to the hookah lounge, I see her car parked, and it was the only one there, which told me I was going to be by myself with her. I walk in and I see that she's sitting at a table with one of the other guy servers who's completely in love with her and will do anything she wants. They see me come in and they start walking very fast toward me. She starts yelling that I have cellulite, that I have back knee, that I'm too short, that I'll never make it as an actress. Come back for part 3, it gets scary. Part 3. My coworker Leslie is yelling at me, telling me I have cellulite, I have back knee, that I'm short, that I'll never make it as an actress or a model, and the guy that's standing right next to her is our coworker, and he's totally in love with her and will do anything she wants. He chimes in every now and then and starts calling me a bitch and other names. She's also doing the same. Every time I would try to say something, they would both interrupt me and she would just yell louder and louder. I didn't know what to do, so I started walking backwards toward my car. The other coworker, I'll call him Mark. Mark had something in his hand and I couldn't really tell what it was. Then he pulls up his hand and I see that he has a pocket knife. I was ready to poo my pants, you guys. She starts laughing at me because she can tell that I'm really scared, and he's just laughing as well. She called me a rat because I told the bosses about what she did. And she said that this needed to be fixed between her and I, no one else. I got mad and I said, well then why do you have Mark here with a knife? I told her we could just talk about things and I asked him to leave and he said no. I tried talking some sense into them, but they just were not listening to me whatsoever. They were just so angry. Come back for part 4. Part 4. So I'm standing in the parking lot and my coworker Leslie is yelling her face off at me and my other coworker Mark has a knife in his hand. I'm sobbing at this point because I'm terrified, obviously who wouldn't be. I managed to get the car door open and I slid inside really quick. I closed the door behind me and then she started banging on the window and she told me to come out. I didn't. I turned on my car and I sped away. I called my bosses right away and I was like, look, this just happened. Check your security cameras. They checked the security camera and they saw the whole thing. They said they were in shock, that they didn't know that she was capable of such a thing, and that they didn't even think that it would occur to her to get someone else involved with a knife. But guess what? They didn't fire her. They told me to go back to the restaurant so that she could apologize to me because they were afraid that I was going to press charges and that the hookah lounge would suffer. And I went back to the hookah lounge because I didn't want to lose my job, and I thought, you know what? I'll just accept her apology and that'll be it. She was begging me for forgiveness. She cried and she told me that she wishes she never said anything to me and that she thought I was very pretty and that she apologized for getting Mark involved. Mark didn't say anything to me and he didn't get fired. Neither of them did. I quit.